It is now my great pleasure to welcome today's commencement speaker, Mark Manoff, who is America's Vice Chair for EY. Mark is what many of you hope to become, tremendously successful. Mark has been with EY for over 35 years. He has seen many changes in the industry, with the Big 8 accounting firms becoming the Big 4, through the transformative effects of technology to the recent developments with the passage of Sarbanes-Oxley. That started on his very first day at his very first job. Mark was hired by a firm that was in the midst of being acquired by Ernst & Whinney, which later became Ernst & Young, and is now EY. Through the years, he has risen to a position of great authority and responsibility in EY. He has been the New York office managing partner, the Northeast region managing partner, and today he leads the EY Center for Board Matters, which focuses on relationships and governance with audit committees and other board members. And he is the executive sponsor for the Leadership Agenda, which is EY's program for up-and-coming senior leaders. He's also the most senior Smith alum ever at EY, which has had a very strong Smith presence over the years. He's also been an influential figure in New York City through his civic involvement with organizations such as the Roundabout Theater and the board of directors of the First Tee Metropolitan New York. He is also one of the organizers of the university's annual Maryland in Manhattan event and hosted the launch party for the Smith New York Alumni Chapter. For those of you heading up to New York, you can't miss that. He received a 2012 Maryland in Manhattan Alumni Award for being so supportive of Terps in the Big Apple. Mark has also been tremendously supportive of the Smith School. He is a member of our advisory board and will next year serve as the next chair. Mark understands what it takes to succeed not just in business, but also in life. I can think of no finer role model for you as you enter the working world. Please join me now in welcoming Mark Manoff.
Good afternoon, fellow Terps. Good afternoon, proud families, faculty, administrators, and guests. What a great, great day to be in Maryland. Thank you, Dean, for that warm introduction. It really has been my pleasure to get to know you since you become Dean, and it's going to be my privilege to work even more closely with you in the coming years. It's always great to come back to this campus, to come home, and not even on a special day like graduation, even more so. It's one of the first things you'll learn as an alum, the warmth, the gratitude anytime you come back to good old College Park. Now, it's not every day that I get to come back, but not a day goes by that I don't reflect on my time here, talk to the people I first met here, or use the lessons I learned at Smith. Graduates, it's been a few years since I've been back here and sitting where you are, but I know the feelings that you're feeling right now. In fact, I remember them pretty well. Fatigue, a little dehydration, maybe a little headache, a little bit of nausea, but I promise you, this hangover too shall pass. Now, I know the character of my fellow Terps, and I know how hard you've worked to get here today. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that all of your partying last night was to celebrate all of your accomplishments and not as preparation to hear a speech from an accountant. The reality is we all do celebrate in different ways. I remember finishing my last class of college. It was cost accounting. I'll be honest with you, that wasn't my favorite class. In fact, I hated cost accounting. So after our last final, a buddy and I went to the very top of McKeldin. We peered over the edge and rebelled the way any self-respecting business student rebels. We threw our calculators off the roof and watched with glee as they exploded into smithereens. Now, out of respect for the administrators behind me, I'm not going to encourage you folks to do that here today. Just throwing your caps in the air will be just fine. But class of 2015, I also remember one of the other feelings you're feeling. You're wondering what comes next. Those of you who have lined up a job are wondering, how do I advance? How do I succeed? Those of you who are still searching, still interviewing, still exploring. You're wondering, how do I land that great job? As someone who has hired, managed, advised, and promoted countless people over the years, I think I can give you some answers to some of those questions. The number one thing I look for is someone who is a whole person. What do I mean by that? I mean someone who is courageous enough to take measured risks, someone who is confident enough to know what he or she doesn't know, someone who brings a distinct point of view, and this is important, isn't afraid to use it. But how do you become that whole person? And how do you stand out when so many of your peers have the same GPA, the same impressive resume, the same valuable diploma from Smith or another outstanding institution? Let me start to answer those questions by telling you about one of the cool things that I've experienced as part of EY, the NBA Draft Lottery. Now, maybe some of you saw the lottery Tuesday night. Unfortunately, my Knicks just didn't get it done. If you're not familiar with the lottery, it's how the NBA decides the order in which the pro teams draft the best college players each year. It's like your local lottery. They fill a big machine with ping pong balls, or as you better know them, beer pong balls. The worse a team finishes during the year, the better the chances are of getting the top pick in the coming year. Well, the NBA, which had been a client of mine for years, uses someone from EY to oversee the integrity of the process, just like the Oscars or the Golden Globes. And every lottery night for 12 years, I would be backstage supervising the random drawing. Then the envelopes and I would be escorted by security onto the set, where team executives, players, and fans alike crossed their fingers, knocked on wood, and hoped luck would find their favor. And then, much to the surprise of a lot of people who hadn't seen me since frat road days, there I'd be on TV, alongside the GMs and the owners as they learned their fate. Now, I haven't done that for about 10 years, but it really was a great run. And I have great memories of being there and thinking, boy, I really wish I would have paid more attention in statistics class. Luck is always a big part of any lottery, of course. Remember when the Wizards beat the odds, won the lottery, and got John Wall? They had just a 10% chance of getting that first pick. Well, I think it was 10%. I think those stats are right. But don't forget the last time I saw my calculator, it was in 100 pieces on the lawn in front of the library. But what I learned over the years was that what mattered most is what happened after the lottery. The careful decision these teams made about what to do with the card they were dealt, who to pick, where to play them, how to build a team, and maybe one day a dynasty. That's what matters most. That's how you improve your odds of success, and that is entirely in your control. Graduates, I believe firmly that the best way to improve those odds is to pick carefully the people you surround yourself with. Now, it's natural at a transition time like this, from college to career, for you to fret a little bit about the company you're going to work for. But I'm here to tell you it's actually more important to focus on the company you keep. I think of it as my own personal board of directors. I'm not talking about people who tell you what to do. I'm talking about people who tell you what they think. I'm not talking about people who just get what you do or know how to do it. I'm talking about people who understand why you're doing it, people who get what really matters to you. And I'm not talking about a group of yes men and women. I'm not talking about complimentary words that might flatter you. I'm talking about complementary parts that make a whole. If you're great at finance, find someone who's good in marketing. If you're a strategic thinker, find someone who specializes in the nuts and bolts. And if you're lucky enough to meet someone like my wife, marry up and immediately place them on your board of directors. And by the way, my outstanding two kids, who are about your age, do make a cameo appearance on my board of directors from time to time as well. Now, I know I am no longer the best technical accountant in the world. Some, well, actually most, would say that I never was. So I count on people who make me whole. It's not a sign of weakness to recognize your weak spots. It's actually a sign of strength and confidence. That's why even the most powerful CEOs lean on their board of directors, and why so many other leaders surround themselves with advisors as well. The President of the United States has his cabinet. President Lowe has his deans. Coach Turgeon has his assistant coaches. Even Daenerys has her dragons. Maybe you're thinking, okay, but I'm not the president of a country or a college, and I'm only the queen of a fantasy army on Halloween. Yet you don't have to be old enough to be on a corporate board of directors to have a personal board of directors. You might not know it, but you already have some of these folks on board. your parents, your buddies, the friends you made here. Some of the guys I met at Smith are still the guys I turn to all the time. And here's why that's so important. Because three of the most important qualities that make you whole, the qualities I mentioned earlier, taking risks, knowing what you don't know, welcoming a diversity of thought. These are by definition things you cannot do well by yourself. Let's start with taking calculated risks. Your board of directors should be a sounding board for tough decisions. I was an accounting major here at Smith. I was rising through the ranks at EY as an accountant. And then one Friday, a senior partner called me in. I felt like I was being called into the principal's office again. He asked me if I would move from New York to Cleveland, to our fancy national office, to work on strategy for our firm and business development. Honestly, it wasn't a role that, it was beyond my area of expertise. I didn't have any relevant experience. It was pretty far outside of my comfort zone, which is exactly why I went. And it changed my career as much as anything I've ever done. Not only did I learn new skills and flex muscles I hadn't exercised before, but for 2 of the 3 years I was there, I sat next to the man who would ultimately be the chairman of our firm for a period of time. It was a risk well worth taking, and one I wouldn't have jumped at without the advice of my personal board of directors. Yes, the ones who encouraged me to take the leap, but also the ones who said I was crazy to even consider it. Today, whenever someone tells me, you really don't want to get involved with that, or this is a tough person to deal with, I welcome the challenge. And I know that there's no better way to succeed than by doing so where everyone before you has failed. But first, you have to take the risk. The second quality I mentioned is the confidence to know what you don't know. Like I said, I'm not the most technical accountant. In a lot of respects, my EQ might actually outweigh my IQ. But just because in some areas you don't have competence doesn't mean that you can't have confidence. I've learned that our business in EY is as much an EQ business as an IQ business. And believe me, if a technical profession like ours is a people business, then everything is. One thing we often forget at a competitive school or in an interview process or during promotion season is that there's actually confidence in vulnerability. And without that vulnerability, without that honesty about our strengths and weaknesses, we can't build the right team or board around us. Over the years, I've found a few personal board members who've also served as mentors to me, people who have taken the time to really help me. Sometimes for them it means explaining something to me step by step, so maybe by the 5th time I actually get it. More than once I've heard them say, let me say it so even you can understand, Mark. The last quality that makes someone whole is knowing how to welcome and in fact champion diversity, especially diversity of thought. And that's the third reason your board will help you achieve more than you could by yourself. You've only experienced life through your eyes. You've only walked in your shoes. Make sure your board has people who bring different skills, who come from different backgrounds, have different orientations, who don't look like you. The whole point is to generate thoughtful ideas, and that only happens when you hear different points of view. Let me tell you, nothing bothers me so much as people who sit through a meeting without once sharing an opinion. And nothing is so wasteful as a good idea unexpressed. About a month ago, I was in a client meeting, a major company whose name you would all know, and later I heard that the senior client executive, a very senior client executive, said, the thing I like most about that meeting is that Manoff had a point of view, even though he might not have understood all of the subject matter. Well, I can tell you, I did not understand all of the subject matter. But just about every company you'll join after you leave here is in the advice business one way or another. If you don't offer an opinion, you have nothing to offer. A final word about your personal board of directors. It's okay if the roster changes. Guys, I fire people on my personal board all the time, and they don't even know it. Circumstances change. Needs change. The environment you're in changes. For example, you might wake up one morning and think, what the heck are we doing in the Big Ten? Things change. When I talk about being a whole person, I don't mean that you have to be the best at everything. What I mean is you have to surround yourself with people who make you better. The better and more diverse the people around you, the better your decisions will be, I promise you that. And never forget that you are a reflection of the people around you, and they are a reflection of you. When I oversaw the NBA draft lottery, my job was done once the order was set. And that's when the GM's job would begin. Their decision was the same as anyone who hires or promotes or puts a project team together. Who gives you the best chance to win? How do you play your players? How do you build that dynasty? Yes, you're looking for the best athlete available, but even the worst GM knows that picking the best player doesn't guarantee a championship. That's why they try to put together people who complement each other, a team that balances weaknesses and strengths. And I try to remember that every day. In fact, if you go to my office in Midtown Manhattan, you'll notice that I have as many books on the shelves about sports as I do about business. And you'll notice two other things. First, the most important mementos I have from my professional successes are not medals or certificates or plaques. They're pictures of people, people on the teams I've built and have been fortunate enough to have been a part of. And second, you'll see a large wooden testudo. I am a Terp through and through. I love the people I met here, people who are still my best friends, golf buddies, advisors, people who give it to me straight. Oh, you'll also notice a calculator. Somewhere along the way, I did replace that shattered version. It turns out it's actually convenient when you're an accountant. Graduates, you can't control everything. But if you surround yourselves with the right people, you'll do what you can to increase your odds of success. It's then, when you change what's probable, that you'll discover what's possible. And in the end, if you surround yourself with the right people, you'll find that success isn't measured by how many advisors you collect. It's in how many people respect you enough to ask for your advice. What you've learned here at Smith, in the classroom and the relationships you've built, has prepared you to graduate one day from someone who seeks mentors to someone who serves as one. Maybe you'll be on someone's corporate board of directors. Maybe you'll be on someone's personal board of directors. Maybe you'll be asked to address a future class of graduates as the commencement speaker at a school you love. And I can tell you firsthand, that will be one of the proudest days of your life. I'm humbled to be surrounded by this great group of Terps today. Thank you for this honor. Congratulations, class of 2015, and best of luck.
Mark, thank you very much for those wonderful words. Speaking of boards, we are so proud that you're the incoming chair of our board, and we appreciate everything that you've done for the school. So as a small token of appreciation, another Terrapin, another Terrapin.
Thank you so much.